Ready? Or,
Yep.
well, wait, no, wait. Okay. Hello and welcome back to Creepy and Weird podcast. I'm Jamie,
And I'm Amy. Hello.
and this week we're going to be talking about the Pazuzu Algarad case. This is we're going to issue a warning and advisory. This case is really, really messed up. And so there might be some things you might want to hear. There might be some things you don't want to, but just be advised.
But people have enjoyed our weirder things, so I guess that's why they come here.
Yes, yeah. So that makes sense. But
Views wise.
all right. Anyways, so to kick this off, Pazuzu Algarad, born John Lawson. He was a self-proclaimed devil worshiper. He was arrested in 2014 along with two members of his inner circle, Amber Birch and Crystal Matlock, who were also referred to as his fiancées. But we'll get into that a little later. But they were arrested after two bodies were found in the backyard of their home in Clemens, North Carolina. Pazuzu was a feature of a five-part a five-part documentary series on Viceland called The Devil You Know. We will link that below. It is available on YouTube, all five parts. It's definitely worth a watch. They cover a little bit more than we're going to cover today. We're just sticking to the core story here. But yeah, where to begin on this, man?
Yeah, there's a lot of information here.
There's a lot of information. We'll start kind of. So, John Lawson legally changed his name to Pazuzu
Algarad.
Algarad. He claimed it was for religious reasons. He didn't really have a religion, so to speak. I mean, he kind of did. It was a cult. And definitely, like, this guy is somehow in that whole, like, cult of personality, you know. He was compared to Charles Manson, which I could see the comparisons, but I think it's, you want to be. But I mean, the outcome was still just as fucked up. And anybody out there who's watching this, you already know that Pazuzu is the name of the demon from The Exorcist. So, we don't really have to tell you that. But so yeah, Pazuzu. He's diagnosed. He was diagnosed at a young age with schizophrenia and agoraphobia, and his mom had him in treatment for a while, and then claimed that she couldn't afford it anymore and had him withdrawn from treatment. But from a young age, guy was also kind of described as just like a strange, morbid. Was obsessed with horror movies, which hey man, that doesn't make you. But obsessed with horror movies and metal and whatnot. All the stereotypes that piss us normies off. That love those things. I mean, could you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just makes me think of Columbine when everybody's looking at me because I dress the same way and listen to Rammstein and so on, I'm like, no, I'm not going to shoot up fucking school.
And guy, he had it, he did have it rough growing up. He was apparently bullied a lot, was a weird kid. I think one of his nicknames was Turd Boy. And we'll get into that later too. There's more on that. But yeah, I just picked on weird kid. And so, like all weird kids, after a while they build their defense mechanism, and Pazuzu wants the very destructive route that ends up with people getting hurt, and that's not how we should do these things. The other thing that's also, we are touching on his mental illness, but the other thing too that is it to me, in my opinion, makes this case really tragic is that a lot of this could have been prevented had law enforcement not just utterly failed this whole community, in my opinion. And that's what makes it sad. So Pazuzu lived at what is it? The address, I'm sorry, I gotta look it up again. 2749 Nob Hill Drive is a nice house, decent looking house. We'll show you some pictures here along the way. He lived there with his mother, Cindy James, and apparently at some point though, his mother remarried a man named, I think it was John James, if memory is serving me, and moved out of the house and left Pazuzu there. And at this point in time, too, like Pazuzu just went off the deep end with his extremist, religious, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and like the sacrificing cats and so on.
Yeah, animals. He had a weird belief that every full moon he had to sacrifice an animal and drink its blood, and they left the carcasses laying around the house.
I think one was in a tree or something.
Yeah, there was a dead cat. There was a neighbor who reported seeing a dead cat hanging from a tree. And I guess there are animals all over the yard and stuff. And once again, there were just carcasses of them in the house. But yeah, he part of his beliefs were, he had to drink blood. And once again, every full moon he had to kill. And bathing.
He didn't do it.
Yep. He didn't do it. Only once a year, because he believed that Satan would cleanse him of his sins by smelling
by him not
food.
cleansing. I don't know.
Yep. So anyways, yes, and there's even a psychiatric evaluation that we will mention a little further that does detail his lack of hygiene practices and his reasons behind it. But after a certain point, this guy was he was troubled. And he had, once again, like a group of friends, an inner circle, a cult, if you will. He had females that one of them was Amber Birch. The other was Crystal Matlock, and he called them his fiancées. And apparently, when you look at the pictures of his house, it takes me back to my teen years and going, yeah, we've all seen a squat like this before at one point. If you haven't, okay, but some of us have. But some of us have, we've all encountered this house before where, when you look at the pictures, my favorite, and I pointed this out to you, my favorite is the picture of all the air fresheners hanging from the chandelier in front of this like tropical paradise curtain of sorts. And I'm like, yeah, okay. This house was just filled with garbage. People would just go to the bathroom wherever, all over the house. People describe it as soon, standing on the porch, you could just smell the urine and death. People describe this house of smelling like death. And that's never a good sign. That's never a good sign when your house is being described as smelling like death. And even given this, and this knowledge here, the cops still wouldn't just check this shit out. A lot of trouble really started for him, it seems like, legally in, where he's being charged in 2010. He was accused of strangling his mother in 2010. The cops had to respond. That was, even then in court documents for then, that was when law enforcement officials alleged that Pazuzu performed satanic rituals and animal sacrifices in the home. So automatically in 2010, these police responded to a domestic, and they knew that he did this. He sacrificed animals and performed satanic rituals.
Yeah.
They just didn't take it seriously. Now, everybody else is dead cats hanging in the tree. The house smells like death. Really? Okay.
Well, they just don't want to be bothered,
Yeah. Or, maybe it was just like such a small community, I didn't look up the crime statistics there. I really should have. However, the documentary, The Devil You Know, paints it as, there's issues there. The town has to be, just, yeah. And so it almost seems like, come on, this wasn't worth looking into, but then in 2011, August of 2011, Pazuzu had pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor assault on a female and was placed on probation for 12 months. So 2010, he assaults his mother. 2011, he assaults another woman and is just given 12 months probation. Followed up a month later, like exactly a month later, September 22nd, 2011, Amber Birch, Pazuzu's fiance, was accused of slapping and choking his mother and was only convicted and sentenced to 12 months probation. So we already have a house that has a problem with violence, and we're just putting probation on it. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. October 2010. This is where the timeline gets weird, and it's going to make this take a little more time. So in October 2010, Pazuzu, he was 31 years old at the time, was charged with accessory after the fact of involuntary manslaughter in the shooting death of Joseph Chandler. He was found his body was found in September on a boat ramp in a nearby park. And now it was rumored that before by other people that this apparent park, Pazuzu liked to go. He claimed he would go there to make sacrifices. Okay. So yeah, once again, it's like the way the information came out about this, it makes it a little weird. Because it's totally like a non-linear Tarantino type story. When you think about it. So yeah, it was rumored that he claimed he would make sacrifices in this park that they found Joseph Chandler's body in. Now, in this investigation, he ended up, as I mentioned, he only got charged with accessory after the fact for involuntary manslaughter, because his friend Nick Reezy was with him, and he was the one who supposedly shot Chandler. And I think like his sentence. Yeah, he was Nicholas Reezy was charged with involuntary manslaughter because they had some like total bullshit story about how he was just testing the gun or something, or like, yeah, just the gun went off, and incidentally shot Joseph Chandler in the head. Like, apparently Chandler got out of the car with them, lit a cigarette, and before, like, yeah, and they shot him in the head. But yeah, so once again, now, this guy's got a couple years of patterns of violent crime, going on. And in this, he's just, charged with accessory after the fact. This is what led up to the psychiatric evaluation.
Yeah.
All right. So during this, a psychiatrist interviewed Algarad, and said that they did confirm the schizophrenia, agoraphobia, and they also even added alcoholism in there. Mm-hmm. But they said that they found him mentally competent to stand trial. So
well, yeah, but that only means at the time of it, he knew right from wrong.
Right. So, and this was in connection with his, accessory after the fact. They also, what is we haven't even got into this dude's appearance, and we're going to now. So Pazuzu had tattoos like all over. Yes, yeah. Well, Chelsea grinned. He grinned himself. Yeah. But he grinned himself, and yeah, okay.
And he had
He
Satan
just
like on his arm.
everything about this guy just screams red flag. Just he's more red flags than a Trump rally. I'm sorry, he is. Um, and this is also when the psychiatrist makes note of his hygiene.
Sorry, I'm sodium deficient here.
Okay. Yeah, so in the psychiatric evaluation, I like that. I'm sorry. I like that one of the lines included, though, in the psychiatric evaluation is basically stating that Pazuzu Algarad is an unreliable narrator. So, like they stated up front that he's an unreliable narrator, and so we don't know how much of his story is credible.
Which is also why he went around bragging, about killing all these people, and people are like, yeah, whatever, dude. Just talking yourself
Exactly, because, yeah, he was not the quiet type, which he would brag to anybody, that he killed people and had them buried in his backyard. So he was making these claims, and people were like, oh, okay, whatever. But there were some people that took it seriously, so according to the psychiatric evaluation, he ended up dropping out of school in 9th grade because that's when his phobia of people started, which could also be reinforced due to the fact that he was bullied. I mean, that's a thing. And he says he often got in trouble skipping classes and stuff like that. He did receive SSI for his agoraphobia.
Okay, I wondered about that. Like, how's he supporting himself?
Yes, he reported. This is straight from the psychiatric evaluation that I'm reading.
Okay,
Mr. Algarad reported that he was unemployed at the time of the alleged offense, and he had not worked in several years, receiving SSI disability because of problems being nervous and paranoid when outside the house. In his earlier 20s, he did briefly work in landscaping, but he did not report any other prior forms of employment.
Okay.
He stated that he was spiritually married to his girlfriend, who is 2.5 months pregnant with their child. He denied any other children born either in and out of wedlock at the time of his alleged offense. He was living with his mother and girlfriend in his mother's house. Yeah, so that, because that was something that made me, like bills, how are we, like, was the mother I'm assuming the mother was taking care of a lot of it.
Yeah,
too.
That's what I assumed also.
He reported to the psychiatrist that he practices a Sumerian religion, having been an adherent of it ever since he was 17. He later acknowledged that he and his wife were the only ones who practiced this religion. But he said that he learned of its rites and beliefs while going through a 5-year shamanistic journey. At the time
I bought a copy of the Necronomicon too when I was 15. Sorry, can't help it.
Yes. Anyways. At the time of his admission, he expressed great concern because every month he had to perform a specific ritual during the black moon, which was supposed to occur in another day or so. He repeatedly requested being discharged from the hospital so that he would be able to be home to perform the ritual at its appointed time, promising that he would return for the evaluation when the ritual was complete.
They're like, nah, bro.
Information from Mr. Algarad's mother suggested that this rite involved killing a small animal as part of a sacrifice.
Oh, dear.
Mr. Algarad did not voice any other significant spiritual concerns. So even during his psychiatric evaluation, he's asking to leave so he can go kill a small animal, and it seems like they're kind of brushing it off.
Yeah.
So apparently, according to him too, he denied any history of problems with the law as a juvenile. And according to Pazuzu, he was never the first time he was arrested, he was 23 years old, and it was for drunk driving. Yeah, Mr. Algarad denied any history of problems with the law as a juvenile. He likewise explicitly denied having ever been arrested on juvenile charges. He said that the first time he was arrested was when he was 23, and he was picked up for drunk driving. And this is something that I actually thought was funny too, because it's true. It's more proof where the guy's sitting there just being honest and telling them the truth, and they're just not paying attention. He did own up to the fact that he had been arrested for assaulting a female, which, he said he was arrested and convicted for assaulting a female. And yeah, so the guy sat here and literally told the truth about everything. And I still haven't found.
I have 99 bananas, so yeah.
So to go, just to talk for a second though. So they ended up talking to Cynthia James, Algarad's mother, and she noted that her son had been born John Alexander Lawson, but he legally changed his name. She indicated that she is not actually his guardian, but rather the payee for his disability checks received because of his problems with phobias.
Right.
Okay, so back to the where mentioning again his obsession with not being allowed to perform the sacrifice for the dark moon while he's here.
What's the dark moon? Is that the new moon, or?
I'm not sure. I'm really not.
Mm-hmm. We had a pink moon last night.
Huh?
We had a pink moon last night, but I slept through it.
Yes. I ended up seeing it. It was pretty nifty.
I like the blue moons because an Adagio Teas has a special blend of tea that they only have for sale in the blue moons.
Double werewolves.
This is my ADHD free associations here.
Right.
Tea,
right.
Moons, pink moons, blue moons.
MON.
That spells moon. I haven't watched the new one. I'm the only person who likes the first one.
Yeah, we have addressed this before. I didn't like the ending of the second, the remake though. I was okay with it to a point, and then I was kind of like, eh.
Yeah, I'll get to it eventually.
I stick with the book. Okay, back to.
Oh. But yeah, last time it was warm then, and I wore a fucking hat and suit, and that was not good.
Here. I found it. Okay. I found it. Okay, so this is the initial intake. Mr. Algarad was advised of the lack of confidentiality at the outset of this evaluation, and he indicated understanding this warning. On admission, he appeared as a cooperative and behaviorally appropriate white male who appeared his stated age. His hair was long, uncombed, and braided into matted braids. Fucking braids. Anyways, or dreads or whatever. He had dreads. He looked like a hippie with a bunch of face tattoos. With pieces of metallic wire around it as part of the braids. Mr. Algarad had numerous tattoos on his face, trunk, arms, and hands. There was a scar in the shape of an inverted cross on his forehead, as well as faint scars on both his hands. There was a scar in the shape of an inverted cross on his forehead, as well as faint scars on both cheeks, curving up from the corners of his mouth to the angles of his jaws. As well, Mr. Algarad had a healing burn injury on his right forearm, which he said represented a brand that was part of my religion. The tips of his teeth showed intentional tapering, and he subsequently admitted that years ago he had attempted to file them to points. Mr. Algarad had generally poor hygiene, with a notable body odor. Poop. And he admitted that he bathed no more than once a year and had not brushed his teeth in years because he felt such actions stripped the body of its defense in warding off infections and illness. Mr. Algarad described his mood. Yeah, we go in, like, he was normal. He claimed he had no hallucinations or anything like that, but just the initial description. Just the initial, yes, thank you. Okay. The initial description, though, of this guy, and yeah, once again, so yeah, he definitely went out there to shock people, and so we have that, slap on the wrist, basically, slap on the wrist, and yeah.
This is my impression of a Bailey Sarian video. Wait, no, it's not.
So that ends up happening, and then we get to 2014. 2014 is when things finally started to actually happen with this guy. So in October of 2014, the authorities ended up executing a search warrant of his house, and they uncovered the skeletal remains of two people that were buried in shallow graves in his backyard. And it would later be revealed that the two men were killed in 2009. Pazuzu Algarad, Amber Birch, were both at home when the search warrant was brought there, and when it was served, and they were each charged with 1 count of murder and 1 count of accessory after the fact. So 2014, they murdered. So 2014, police finally took this serious, and it's about goddamn time.
Yeah.
It's about goddamn time. So now these guys, and the victims here were Josh Wetzler and Tommy Welsh. Josh Wetzler he disappeared in July of 2009. And when he disappeared in August, a woman named Tarina Billings went to the sheriff's office and reported that her father, Alan Billings, had been at Pazuzu's house because her dad hung out with Crystal Matlock, one of Pazuzu's fiancées, the other one who was arrested also and charged in this. Apparently Tarina's father, Alan, hung out with her, Crystal Matlock, and she alleged
he hung out with Crystal.
Yes. And so Tarina alleged that her father was over at Pazuzu's house and then came home and told her that Pazuzu had a dead body in his basement. So Tarina reported to the police that her father told her that he had been at Pazuzu's house and had seen a body that was covered in a plastic tarp in Pazuzu's basement.
Yeah.
And that Pazuzu had told him that he shot him 10 times because he was a snitch. So yeah, Josh Wetzler came up missing in July. In August.
Didn't Wetzler's former partner and the mother of his son, didn't she say that she never found out exactly why?
Right. Yeah, they never
kept her up on anything.
Right. It wasn't until there was a reporter, and it wasn't until he happened, and there was a lawyer who had been at one of the trials, who ended up helping them out too. I do believe her name was Amy. I can't remember her last name. We can look that up too. But they are the two people that actually kind of helped Stacy find out what was going on.
Yeah, Stacy.
Because Stacy Carter, I believe. Yes. And she ended up I have to go back.
And then the poor son thinks that his father abandoned him, but when actually
this is where this story for me gets really, really, really tragic. It's kind of like,
and Stacy said he actually seemed relieved when he found out he was murdered, because that means the father didn't abandon him. He couldn't see him,
right? And it's closure. It's like, okay, yes, and that is,
well, now he knows what happens.
Yes,
which is fucked up,
Yes, it is.
Murdered at that age.
Yes, the thought that my dealing with the fact that your parent was murdered is and this is where this whole thing, like, for me, gets just super fucking ooky. And it's the victim impact,
especially felt bad for the little boy.
Yes, and who else I felt really bad for? I felt really bad for Joseph Chandler, the young man that was murdered in 2010, who Pazuzu got a slap on the wrist for. His mother, I really
the
really
blind guy,
yes,
with a cigarette,
yes, I really felt for his mother,
really, because that
mother,
he didn't even deal with these people. He wasn't friends with them and shit. It was just kind of in the wrong place.
He just had the misfortune of meeting two scumbags, which I'm going to get into my opinion on this here, at some point. On I have opinions. I have strong opinions that I will share at the end. But so at this point, Tarina Billings goes to the police, reports all of this that her father claimed to, report or told her.
Mm-hmm.
But then when the police talked to her father, he denied it. That's what I meant to do. I needed to pull the search warrant back up. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Because this is where we're working from the search warrant now. It's the more concise. Yes, 2010 is when Stacy talked to a friend and then talked to the police. Okay. So the next day, when the cops responded to Tarina Billings' report about what her father allegedly told her, they ended up talking to her father, and he claimed that he wasn't there. He never observed a deceased body or assisted with a burial. However, he did tell them that Pazuzu told him on July 19th, 2009, and Josh Wetzler came up missing around July 2009, that he had shot and killed a fat motherfucker approximately 3 days ago with an assault rifle. Mr. Billings further stated, Billings told them, the police, that, Pazuzu told him he shot and killed him with an assault rifle, and told him that he had shot him 10 times. He also said that he did not question Pazuzu about the murder and told Pazuzu that he did not want to know anything about it.
Okay.
Alan Billings also told the police that the following day, Pazuzu called him and told him that he had chopped up the body and buried it. Mr. Billings told Foster that while at the residence, that he recalled seeing several pistols as well as an assault rifle. So he did state, like, this dude's like up to no good. So the next day, it would be August 4th, 2009, the police responded to Pazuzu's house. When the police got there, they talked to Pazuzu and told him that, they had received information from several individuals that he had shot and killed someone in the basement and buried the body in his backyard. Pazuzu denied any and all of the allegations to the police. And they did also note that in the search warrant that they observed an in-ground swimming pool as well as a cat at the residence. So it was possible that chlorine and cat litter were stored at the residence, because that was one of the things that Tarina Billings mentioned to them.
Yeah.
That her father told her that they used cat litter and chlorine to cover the odor of the dead body. Now, starting in September of 2009, the Winston-Salem Police Department, not the other one was the Forsyth Sheriff's Office. In 2009, the Winston-Salem Police Department received an anonymous Crime Stoppers tip that contained information on a person by the name of Pazuzu, who lived on Nob Hill Road in Clemens. And the Crime Stoppers report stated that Pazuzu had shot a subject and buried them in his backyard. Yep. The Crime Stoppers report further indicates that the victim in question had been missing for about a month and that he was described as a big or tall guy.
Yeah, but the ex-girlfriend said that she just thought he was on the run from his parole officer, so she wasn't really looking.
Right. But that wasn't even, no, this was just some anonymous. I didn't think that was her.
Okay.
No, we get to Stacy in a little bit here. This is just still random, like, people hearing rumors, because these motherfuckers would not shut the fuck up about what they were doing. They were literally telling everyone, and and getting away with it.
Yep.
And then here's another anonymous, and this also went to the Winston-Salem Police Department. So this stuff was going to the Winston-Salem Police Department, where other people were going to the Forsyth Sheriff's Office. And so clearly those two agencies didn't really seem to be in communication with one another. Lieutenant Foster stated that on 2/9/2010, the Winston-Salem Police Department's cold case homicide unit received 2 anonymous emails concerning Pazuzu. The information contained in the 2 emails stated that Pazuzu Algarad, and it had his address in Clemens, and his girlfriend, they referred to her as Bubbles.
Yeah.
This is Amber Birch.
Amber was Bubbles.
Picked up a homeless person from a gas station and shot him in the head. The emails further stated that the deceased was buried in Pazuzu's backyard under a tarp, and described Pazuzu as a religious extremist with mental disorders such as schizophrenia and agoraphobia. So somebody who knew real details reported them.
Yeah.
And that was in February of 2010. So yeah, I mean, we're still a few months out. Now, at the time that anonymous email concerning Pazuzu happened, right? That same day is when Stacy Carter was contacted by a friend, Miss Allison Sitzer, who informed Miss Carter that Miss Sitzer was at a concert in Asheville, North Carolina, and learned that Ms. Carter's ex-fiance, Josh Wetzler, had been murdered and buried in Pazuzu's backyard.
Mm-hmm. Didn't she just say somebody named Josh or something? Or...
Yeah, something like. But
she didn't necessarily say her ex, but she figured it out from because he's missing and it's the same name.
I'm reading just the search warrant timeline.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, you're right though. It was in a casual, not a formal way.
Yeah.
That
this Pazuzu dude shot a bunch of times this dude named Josh, and she's like, oh shit.
Yeah. Right. Josh has been missing.
Because she's been missing. She's been looking for him, and he's missing.
Yeah. And so after hearing this from her friend, that's when Stacy Carter went to the police. Apparently, the Allison Sitzer, according to this, told the detective at the time that she had called Pazuzu late last year when she hadn't seen or heard from Josh Wetzler in a while because she knew that Pazuzu was acquainted with Josh.
Because Josh was staying there or some shit.
Yes, yeah, he wasn't random.
Yeah.
He wasn't a random person. He stayed there. He would squat there too.
Right. Because he was
Because
sort of off the radar
to
and shit sometimes.
to get a little backstory into him, this is another case where like the system was just like, really, he fell on hard times and ended up resorting to selling drugs to try to support his family and make ends meet.
Yeah, but that was some shit like he had a felony or something, and then like when you have a felony, they won't hire you. So like, what do you do?
Right,
You know,
right.
you
And
resort to crime.
that's the problem, is like it's not like he had bulk, He I think he had like small amounts, but they charged him with felony. He got felony drug charges.
Yeah.
And yeah, after that you're unhirable. And that is a problem with the system. And why, like our yeah, anyways, that's a topic for another time, but it is an issue.
Yeah.
And so basically that it ruined this guy's life. And yet Pazuzu is just happening. You fucking see, really?
And nobody
Really?
gives a shit about him.
Yeah, exactly.
They give shit about the guy
and
who like might have gone straight after,
yeah, yeah. The guy who had one mistake,
Yeah,
one
they fuck
mistake.
him over. Right.
Yeah, for life. And yeah, no, but yeah, Pazuzu, slap on the wrist, whatever. And this is my, I said I had strong opinions. I have strong opinions. And my strong opinions come into play with when you really get into the victims, and the circumstances that led to this, just. So she ended up contacting a different sheriff's office. I do believe it was the Davie County Sheriff's Office, and this is Stacy Carter, and reported Josh missing. This was on February 15th, 2009. So on 2000,
Okay, and
on the
he's
9th,
been missing since July-ish.
right? Well,
February.
yes. And so she did contact them. She contacted a police officer, did report him missing in 2009. And then in 2010, around the same time, ends up hearing the story from her friend. Allison Sitzer calls Pazuzu because, Pazuzu and Josh, did have a connection, and asked him if he had seen or heard from Josh lately. And Pazuzu told her not to worry about Fat Josh anymore. And then Pazuzu changed the subject during their conversation. So, and she even, I'm sure relayed that to, Stacy Carter. The first search of his property, didn't pan out because the circumstances of the house, just, the dogs couldn't find anything. Not only that, they claim that they didn't have a specific mentioned area to search in the backyard. I have to mention Tommy Welsh. He was the third victim of Pazuzu Algarad. There wasn't really a lot that I could find on him. However, what I do know is that he disappeared in October of 2009. So a few months after Josh. All right. So Josh, they murdered Josh in July. I'm sorry. So they murdered Josh in July of 2009, hid his body in August. That was hid his body in July, August. And still, it was reported to the police, in August of that year, that he had killed somebody, buried him in his backyard. So that factually was reported to the police. Now, nothing happened until 2010 with police action. So in October of 2009, they ended up abducting Tommy Welsh and he suffered the same fate as Josh Wetzler. He was tortured, abused, and shot by, I do believe, Amber Birch was the one who shot him on the couch. Now, this was also backed up by Pazuzu Algarad's mother, Cynthia James. She had apparently at some point reported Tommy Welsh's murder to the police, his own mother. But where we got the details from this is from one of the other girls that was a member of Pazuzu's circle, Dixie Ross. And Dixie Ross had an ongoing correspondence with Matt Flowers, who was at one point in time a friend of Pazuzu's, and then he joined the military and was deployed. So Dixie and Matt had correspondence with each other, and at one point in time, Dixie told him that Pazuzu murdered a guy and that she helped him bury him in the backyard, and allegedly even sent pictures of a body wrapped in a tarp to Matt Flowers. And he then, went and reported this to the police. I'm not sure when it was that he ended up reporting this. I do believe it is mentioned in the search warrant here, so I'll find it. November 8th, 2011. Cynthia James, Pazuzu's mother, went to the sheriff's office and requested to speak with a detective about a murder that occurred at the Nob Hill Drive residence. Cynthia spoke with a detective, Ammons, not sure, told them that sometime in the later months of 2009 that Pazuzu, Amber, and a stocky white male approximately around the ages of 20 to 30 that was identified to her as Tommy were partying at her house, and she told the detective that she heard a gunshot and went to the area where she heard the gunshot and observed Amber holding a knife, and the Tommy subject slumped over on the couch. Cynthia told the detective that Pazuzu told her to leave the area, so she complied with his request. Cynthia further stated to the detective that a short time later that night, another white female, identified to her as Dixie, arrived and was helping Amber bury the body in the backyard. Cynthia told the detective that she looked out her bedroom window and observed Dixie and Amber digging a hole in the backyard. So this is 2011, November of 2011. Pazuzu's mother reports this. They ended up, through missing persons, locating Tommy Welsh, and they contacted his mom. And he had apparently left. All right, he was reported missing on October 4th of 2009. October 3rd of 2014 is when they did the search. So it's years apart, but okay. I know how I fucked myself up anyways. So yeah, he was missing. He had been reported being seen on various video surveillance and stuff. So yeah, during this time too, Tommy Welsh had disappeared. And so in 2010, when the police ended up going and doing the first search of the house, there was, at that point in time, they were just responding to Josh Wetzler, but Tommy Welsh was already buried there too. Yep. So at that point in time, the house search, there's 2 dead bodies on the property, and they hadn't even shot Joseph Clemens yet. Okay. So and once again, this is the tragedy, his death all of these deaths could have been avoided. They really could have been avoided.
But again, the police pay attention to rich and people with connections and shit, and these are poor people with no real connections,
Right. And what kills me is it's in all of these anonymous Crime Stoppers, why didn't somebody just lie and say he was growing pot in his backyard? Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just all the times when serial killers are killing prostitutes or homeless people or black people.
Nobody cares about sex workers.
Nobody gives a shit.
They never like that's usually the first go to is, they always discount or discredit the sex workers. And,
Yeah, nobody gives a shit.
the call of his mother. And that's the thing that I didn't understand. Like in 2011, why nothing happened there. She tried. She did try. But I mean, it was a couple years later.
But even watching that Dennis Nielsen thing, like the
Mm-hmm.
only one people cared about was like that one dude with some sort of political connections or something, like he was the son of somebody, and like the rest
Right.
were like some like homeless and poor gay people, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Kenneth Ockenden, that was the name.
Dahmer.
Yep.
Here.
Yeah, exactly.
2014, police are speaking to someone on a totally unrelated case. And as they're speaking to this person, Daniel Pilcher, he asked them when they got there if they were there to speak with him about Pazuzu. And so they're like, oh, you're familiar with Pazuzu? And at this point, they make a note. Oh, we're familiar with this guy from other investigations. Okay, finally 2014, and they're like, red flag. But I guess better late than never at this point in the game. This guy, the Daniel Pilcher, they told him that they weren't there to talk to him about that, but they told him that they weren't there to talk to him about that, but like, hey, go ahead, what do you want to talk about? And so he ended up telling them that he lived with Pazuzu for about 3 months. And while he was living at Pazuzu's house, there was a body buried in the backyard. Told them that Pazuzu told him that the fat motherfucker was buried right there under a plastic tarp. Now, this is also multiple times now where it is other people have stated or that Pazuzu has referred to Josh as a fat motherfucker. So yeah, I just, we're gonna point that little connection there out. So Pilcher then told them, that Pazuzu told him right exactly where the body was buried. Okay, in the backyard. And indicated he like drew a picture for them, like drew him a little map to let them know. They ended up getting like a complete statement from him. And then so on a total anonymous adventure, police get the statement from Daniel Pilcher about his involvement with Pazuzu and everything. And on September 26th of 2014, it was the Crime Stoppers report from the Winston-Salem police that ended up getting forwarded to them. So this Crime Stopper report got forwarded to the Forsyth sheriff. It indicated that a subject by the name of Matthew Flowers had the information about the murder and burial of a subject at Pazuzu's house. Matt indicated in the Crime Stoppers report that his ex-wife. See, I didn't know that Dixie was his ex-wife.
Okay.
Until now. So, okay. That explains their correspondence. And all right. Yeah, he reported that his ex-wife, Dixie Ross, had assisted in the burial of the body. And okay, so Matthew continues in his Crime Stoppers report that he anonymously reported the same information when he first received information about the homicide. So here's where we have the connection that, so yes, all this time to the Winston-Salem police, these anonymous Crime Stopper reports are coming from Matthew Flowers.
Okay.
So he had been...
But yeah, like he said in the video, it was like he was just really pissed that he did this shit,
Yeah, and yes, and it's, it's so funny because it, to me, in this circle of people, he was the only person who seemed genuinely outraged that this was even happening. and that it was being overlooked and being ignored.
Yeah, like reasonably outraged and pissed that
Yes.
fucked up shit happened.
Yes. And it's like, I know he wanted to make, he made a comment about not being a hero, but like, no, really, like, dude, you are the hero of this story. People got closure because of your persistence. And yeah, so thanks for that. You did your part to make the world a better place. You really did. Aw, I was nice. Anyways, sorry. So yeah, in courtesy of his report, that's what was the final, like, let's, get things moving here. So that was September, and then it was on October, in October of 2014, when cops ended up arresting Pazuzu and Amber, doing a massive search of the house and the property, where they did indeed recover 2 sets of human remains, and literally looking at, this.
Yeah, and by that time they were so skeletalized, they like didn't they put Josh's head in a bucket or something?
Something.
Yeah. The rest, like, they couldn't even identify it as human right away because it was so.
Right, and it had been years, like just years.
Yeah.
Of being out there, and
in a shallow grave, so like weather would,
Pazuzu Algarad is now deceased. He committed suicide
by biting his fucking wrist or arm or something.
Yep, chewed through his arm. And what?
It's not across the street; it's down the road, man.
And yeah. What I find ironic, I guess, I don't know if it's really irony or if it's a bummer, is that he had been transported to a prison for safekeeping to prevent him from doing what he did. He had one job. Anyways. So, this is also, I think, where the system kind of failed these families one more time.
Yep.
Sure, justice will never bring them back their loved ones. They'll never have that again. But it will at least bring them closure. Now, so he never stood trial. Amber Birch did. And she was convicted to 39 years in prison. So yeah, Algarad killed himself in prison in October of 2015. But Amber Birch and Crystal Matlock are still alive and, well, in prison. Birch pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, armed robbery, and accessory after the fact of murder in 2017. And she was sentenced to more than 30 years as part of a plea deal. When she pleaded guilty, she reportedly expressed regret about her crimes, to the families. I know some of the families weren't exactly receptive to it, but, and that's their right. But she apparently did. And then Crystal Matlock was convicted of just helping bury Josh
Wetzler's.
Yeah. In June of 2017, she pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit accessory after the fact to second-degree murder. She was sentenced to a minimum of 3 years and 10 months in prison, and she got out in May of 2018 after time served for awaiting her trial, and her parole ended on February 1st of 2020. However, in January of 2020, she is back in jail for larceny, firearm charges, drugs, you name it. So, at this point in time, they're both behind bars. So that was, Birch's conviction. That was the closest thing that the families got to their closure. And so kind of sucks a little bit, because all of this could have been prevented. All of this simply and easily could have been prevented on multiple fronts. Strong opinion time. I'm not going to say that I'm thoroughly convinced that his mental illness was all a large part of this, because while in prison, and you can read his autopsy report. While in prison, he was medicated, and he still managed to chew through his arm. So even medicated, that was a choice. Yeah. That was a choice that he made. So along the way, even though he did have mental illness, I think that a lot of the things that he'd done, a lot of the things that he said were choices that he made. I don't know. I know. Definitely check out the documentary.
The Vice one.
Yes. Once again, it'll be linked down below. It is definitely worth a watch. I also would suggest checking out Bailey Sarian's video on it. She does a really good, hers is very compressed, but doesn't lose the details.
But other than that, yeah, thanks for watching, and check out our Etsy shop and stuff. We got like keychains and stuff, and t-shirts, and all that shit. We got our postcards there.
Yes. Help us buy a t-shirt.
And be sure to like and subscribe and share our videos if you like them.
Yes.
Thanks, friends.